Welcome to the fastest daf in town. Today we'll Masech the Shavuot daf Lamed Hey. We're going to begin on Lamed Hey and Aleph by the top Mishnah. Says the Mastis, Mashpi'ani aleichem imo tavo betu edeni. I want you to come and testify for me. And this is again in the parak we're learning of Shavuot Eidos, that there's a chiyuv that if you know testimony, you are supposed to say it. And if you make a shvuah to the extent that you, even though you knew testimony, you deny that you knew it, and then afterwards you admit, then there's a chiyuv of having to bring a carbon oil of a yared. And we said it doesn't obviously apply unless you're someone who's kosher le'edus. Also, we said in yesterday's daf that when it comes to shvuah se'edus, it's your chayiv not only if you do this b'shoigig, but also if it was b'mezid, because it doesn't say v'nelam. So when you approach this person, because we feel that you know the following testimony, Shema Ish Ploini, that you know that this guy said, Litin li Masayim Zuz Nosan, that he promised he was going to give me $200 and he never gave me the money. You know that that's what he promised, and you end up swearing falsely. So you're going to be potter from having to bring a carbon, because Hari Elu Paturin Shein Chayavan al Tvias Mamoin Kipikadain. You're only going to be chayiv when it comes just like Shavuot Bikadon. Again, we said by Shavuot Bikadon is by Tvias Mammon. But more importantly, this is not a case of him owing you money. This is a case where you're saying that he promised to give me a gift, but he never gave me the gift. It's only that if you would have testified, then he would have had to have paid. But that's not over here. You say, yes, I testify, I knew for a fact that this guy promised he was going to give you a couple $100. But the din is, he could always say, I retract my promise to give this gift. He doesn't have to give you a gift. So, and this actually we saw at quite great length in Masechtas Nedarim, that when it comes to, Rabbi Yossi's Shita certainly brings us down, that when it comes to a matana, it's only once it's actually in your hands. But if it wasn't yet given, so they can always be chayzer. So therefore, you're not going to be chayiv for such false testimony. Mashbi'ani aleichem. If you again make this person want to swear, kishitadu li edus. So he wants to have edim in his back pocket, that when you will eventually, maybe in the future, know edus shetabav todeni, then you will have to come and testify for me. If you eventually will know edus, right now you don't because nothing happened, but eventually something may happen. And when that does happen, I want you to testify for me. It must be that they knew the edus at the time of the shvuah. It can't be that you make a shvuah and there's nothing to know, and then only later maybe you found out about it and didn't want to testify or something like that. It doesn't work in that order. You decide to go to shul one day, and you just decide to go into the top of the bima and say the following: If you say, out of all the 1,000 people in shul, anyone who knows testimony about such and such, you need to testify for me, and I want everyone to make a shvuah. Right? So you're going to be potter because he has to specify who the Edom are, as it says in the parentheses. He has to be specifically pointing at certain people. But if he says to two people, so okay, let's go slow. Let's say he turns to two people and he says, you have testimony, you know the testimony, you should come and testify. I make a shvuah, I don't know this testimony. They do know aid, but they didn't know it directly. It was like through hearsay. One of the people were not valid witnesses, Haro Paturin. Since they are not valid witnesses, so therefore it doesn't work. Shuvos Edus, as we said, it's only by a karoi, it can't be by a karov, it can't be apostle. Sholch miad avdoi, let's say you have a shliach, Hanitva mashmian elechem shimatem yoidim le'edus shetavav ta'adeni har il paturin ad shishma pi hatoivea. It needs to come from the claimant himself and not through an agent. Okay, so why not? Don't we say shalom chamaisal? The Gemara is going to explain. So it says the Gemara, Tanurban mashmian elechem im lo tavav ta'adeni. Shermi ish pleni litin masam zuz lo nasan yachi chayavin. So this is the ratio that you know for a fact that this guy promised going to be money. He never gave me the money, so you would think you were chayav. Tell me techata techata gzer shava. As we saw this gzer shava before, linking shvus ha'edos to shvus bikadain. Never kan techata, but never holon techata. Mal holon betvias mamoin v'yeshloi. In other words, when it comes to shvus bikadain, the guy has the pikadon in his house. Afkan betvias mom v'yeshlo. It has a legitimate claim, but there's no legitimate claim because again, you could always say chazrani bi. Mashmian alechem kishetedu le'edusuchu, that you'll know in the future. Turn about mashmian alechem kishetadu le'edus shetavateni yachli yuchayavin, for future edus. Talmud leimer b'shama koil ola u'ed ora, that you heard about this or you saw something. Or yad, that you knew something. So mishikan me'edos ashua. It has to be that your knowledge and testimony or vision of what happened took place before you made a shua against it. Lo shikan meshua edos. You just made this blanket statement to everyone. It doesn't work. Even if among those 1,000 people are the two witnesses that you actually needed, but you just never pinpointed them. So pshita, that you're in front of them, it's as though you're actually talking directly to them. It doesn't make any difference. So it's like you're speaking to them directly. Let's say you see a group of people, that they're standing there, the aid of beinehem, and you have the witnesses that are also among this huge crowd. It says v'hu aid. You have to actually designate these guys, and you didn't designate them. Now, obviously, if you designate them, they could be in the presence of thousands of people, but if you pinpoint those two people, then you're talking to them. But if you're not saying it specifically, then it doesn't work. If you say, everyone who is here, if you use that language, then hitaka would be chayav. Okay. You say to two people, I want you guys to testify. Come and testify about me. They know testimony, but they only know it aid through hearsay. It's only if you're not able, you decide not to say it over, will you get a sin. It's only only someone who is fit to give edus. But these people are posel edus, or they don't have the ability to give edus because they didn't actually witness anything. So he said also it's not going to work. You have to actually say it to the claimant himself. What do we learn out from the word lo? What does that mean? So it's very interesting. The way it's written in the Torah is a very unusual word. So Oimer Rabbi Lezer im lo yagid. It's actually written Lamed Vav Aleph. Lo with a Vav means to him. Lo with an Aleph means not. So why is it written both ways? To tell you im lo yagid kasev im loy lo yagid. So it says if it's to him, that you specifically said it to him, then you're chayiv. So the reason why it as the vav is a beautiful vart is to show that it's only when you say it to him are you chayiv, but not to a shliach. So it's specific that you have to say it to the litigant. Question 5. Ksiba parsha shows the edus im lo yagid. Mata when the kasev loy b'ksiv miloy. Right? Why does it say in this unusual way? Right? It's unusual. It's written as of with a vav and an aleph, again to tell you. Let's just see what it says here. The im lo yagin asavana, the im lo im la'acher lo yagin mekan demi'ina sheyishma be hatoivev lo shluchai. Okay. All right. Right. Let's see the next mission. Says the Masnisa. Mashbi'anian aleichem says these different languages. We're going to have to interpret exactly what this means. So these are different things that you say to try to get someone to make a shua for you, and we'll see whether you're chayav shuas ha'edus based on these languages. Mashbi'ani aleichem, or mitzavani aleichem, or you say usruchem ani, that I'm binding you. Hari elu chayavin. So these are all acceptable languages. B'shemayim v'aretz. But if you use the words just shemayim v'aretz, for some reason, hari elu paturin. That's not going to work. And the reason is because a Shavuot needs to have Hashem's name in it, in shemayim v'aretz. Even though Hashem, of course, created the heavens and the earth, that doesn't mean that you're not talking about the heavens and the earth, excluding Hashem. So therefore, Hashem's is not in there. But Aleph Dalet. Let's say you use the Aleph Dalet, which is referring to Hashem's name, starting with the letters Aleph and Dalet, or the name of Hashem, which is B'Yud and a Hey, or B'Shakai, which is another one of the names of Hashem, or B'Tzavakais, B'Chanun V'Rachum, B'Erech Apayim, B'Rav Chesed, B'Chol HaKinuyim. If you use any of these names, which are likened to Hashem, Har Il Chayavin, because those count as Hashem's name. Avakal B'Kulan, also, for that matter, someone who curses Hashem, Mavarches Hashem, in any of these ways, for example, says Yaakov Pliny as Pliny, so then you're going to be chayiv if you use any of these names of Hashem. Chayiv, Dibra Meir. Chachamim Poitrin, however, the Chachamim disagree, and we'll understand what that means. Makal Aviv Imo B'Kulan, if you curse your parents, you have to curse your parents using Hashem's name, with any of these, chayiv. Chachamim again disagree. Also, when it comes to this, Makal Imo, it's not one of the kinuyim. Makal Atzmo, when he curses himself, v'chaveroi b'kulan oiver b'loisasei. So you curse yourself or your friend, you're oiver loisasei. Yach Hashem Elokim v'chein Yach Elokim zu eile haksuva b'Torah. So these are all written in the Torah. And then when it says Al Yakchav Yarachav Yitanocha, Hashem will not hit you. Al Yakcha, I will not hit you. Yarachav Yitavocha, be good for you. So there we have a machok. Says Rashi, Im Toadeni or Yarachav Im Toadeni v'Chib the Kafar, because it's a Mechalav Atashmehein. It says Al Yakcha Im Toadeni. So it's like a negative. So the question is, can we infer a positive from a negative? So we learn out Mechalav Atashmehein or not? Okay. So it says the Gemara, Mashbi'ani Aleichem. So my Kaimer, what exactly is the ratio of this mission coming to tell you? So Rabbi Yehuda Haki Kaimer, Mashbi'ani Aleichem b'Shvuah Hamer b'Torah. That I want you to make a shvuah based on that which is in the Torah, because it must be a word in the Torah to be chayiv. Mitzavani Aleichem b'Tzivoy Hamer b'Torah, like a commandment in the Torah. Or sarchem ani, that you are bounded b'isar hamar b'Torah, like that which is found in the Torah. So all these different cases, you're chayiv, because it's linked to some Torah source, Torah word. He said that koivulchem ani harei chayavim, using where the koivulchem, which is like binding you in chains, but covered with a rice miksiv, it doesn't say that in the Torah. Elomar Rabbi Hakiyam Mashbi'ani Aleichem b'Shvuah, Mitzavani Aleichem b'Shvuah, or Sarchem ani b'Shvuah, Kuvulchem ani b'Shvuah. Says Rashi, Masker es Hashem be'echem yikol Hashem salolu. If you mention Hashem's name and b'Shvuah in all of these, then you are chayiv. Ba'alef Daled, B'Yud and a Hey, B'Shakai, B'Savakais, B'Chan Barachim, Merech Apayim, Rav Chesed, Yuchai. So remember the Chan Barachim, Shem is then who? Those are names of Hashem, being compassionate, and etc. Minhu, Yeshem is Shinim Chokim. Yeshem is Shinim Chokim. We can't erase Hashem's name, but sometimes words can be erased, words which are not Hashem. The question is, what are the middle ground ones? So Elohim Shem She'en Nimchakim. You can't erase Kegoin Kel Elokecha Elokim Elokechem Eya Asher Eya or Eka Asher Eka El Aleph Dalid. So Eya Asher Eya, which is interesting, it's found in Sefer Shemos Per Gimel Pasuk Yud Dalid, which is 3:14, which is Pi, which is eternality, which is HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Aleph Dalid V'Yud Hey Shakai Tzavakos Har El Inim Chokim. Abba Hagadol Hagibor V'Hanoira Ha'adir V'Hachazak V'Amitz V'Ozus Chanun V'Rachum Erech HaPayim V'Chesed Har El Inim Chokim. They could be erased. So Rabbi Mastisin, our Mishnah is B'mi Shehu Chaynin, that you added, you didn't just say Chanun, you said B'mi Shehu, the one who is Chanun. B'mi Shehu, as we continue to Lamed Hamid Beis, B'mi Shehu Rachum Kaimer. And therefore it's obviously only Hashem. When we're Rabbi Ihachi, B'Shemayim V'Aretz Nami, B'mi Shehashemayim V'Aretz Shaloi Kaimer, it's referring to who is the creator of the heaven and the earth. So, Hachiash. Hasam, Kivan the Lake Midi, Achrina, the Ikri, Rachum, Chanun. There's no one else we can say, Mishu Rachum. Not going to talk about anyone, a human being. So, Vadi b'mishu Chanun, Vadai b'mishu Rachum Kaimer. It's Hashem. Hacha, when it comes to heaven and the earth, Kivan di Kashmai Ba'aretz, B'Shemai Ba'aretz Kaimer. Right? So, sometimes the heavens and the earth, you're just talking about the heavens and the earth. Okay. Talk about them. Kosev Aleph Lamed. If you wrote the first two letters, Mit Elokim, or for that matter, you wrote Yud Hey from Hashem's name, Hashem, Harizet Eino Nimchak. You can no longer erase them because although you didn't complete the name, it doesn't matter, since these letters, these two letters, are also Hashem's name. Right? Are also Hashem's name, even though it wasn't your intention to write it that way on their own, so therefore you can't erase them. Okay. So that's that. Shin Dalid Mishakai, which also means like a demon, right? Shin Dalid, or Aleph Dalid Ma'adoini Ma'ashem, Shin Dalid Yud, which is Sadi Dalid Yud rather, Base Mitzvah. I'm sorry, Sadi Bays. Sorry about that. Sadi Bays. The two letters Sadi Bays, the first two letters of Mitzvahos, Harizeh Nimchak, can be erased because those aren't words. Rabbi Yosi Mitzvahos Kol Nimchak. Even if you write the entire word Tzavakos, it could be erased because sometimes Shelo Nikra Savois El Al Shem Yisrael. Maybe it's referring to the host. It could be talking about the Jewish people, not Hashem. Shnemer Hoitzeisi Es Sivoisi Es Amim B'nei Yisrael Me'eretz Mitzrayim, that removed them B'nei Yisrael who are called Sivois. So it's possible that it had a different connotation. Rabbi Shmuel Enolach Rabbi Yosi. We don't hold like him. Tell about him. Because after all, even though it could be called something else, but when you wrote it for the sake, for the purposes of Hashem, and therefore that's why it's different. Tell about him. Kol Ataful Hashem, anything which is secondary to Hashem, Bein Lafanav, Bein L'Malachav, Harizeh Nimchak. In other words, prefixes or suffixes linked to those words. Lafanav Ketzad, the Lamed of Hashem, the Lamed Nimchak. You can erase the Lamed because even though it's connected to Hashem's name, but it's just a prefix. It's not like part of the word. Bahashem, the Beis Nimchak. You can remove the letter Beis. A Vav also, Hashem, Vav Nimchak. The Mem, which is another prefix from Hashem, so in that case, Mem Nimchak. Shin to Hashem, Shin Nimchak. Hey to Hashem, so Hey Nimchak. So you can erase the Hey. The Chaf, which is another prefix, Hashem, Chaf Nimchak. That sounds like those are all the prefixes. Lamed Beis Vav, Mem, Shin, Hey, Chaf. That's an interesting Ivrit question. Name all the letter prefixes. La'acharav Ketzad Elokeinu. So Nun Vav Nimchak. You can remove the last two letters because they're just suffixes. Elokeichem, so Haim, the Hay and the Mem is Nimchak. Elokeichem, again, Chaf and the Mem, Sofit is Nimchak. Acherim, Oimrim, some say, the Acherim say, Lacharav, Eino Nimchak. Shkvar Kochu Hashem. And Hu the Halacha Kacherim. Here the Halacha is like this Das Yochid, like the Acherim. We usually do pass like the Acherim. So the fact is that even though it's a suffix, which is interesting, why only by a suffix, not by a prefix? To think about that. But it's no longer just separate letters, but it's connected to Hashem's name. So there's a couple answers. First of all, at the time when you wrote the prefix, you didn't write Hashem's name yet. The suffix, you already had written Hashem's name. So that could be one distinction. Another possibility is that if you remove the prefix, like Alamid, Hashem's name still stands on its own. But when it comes to, for example, Elokeinu, so you have Elokei, so that's true. Elokehem, okay, so it's probably, maybe that's the reason. Okay. Avraham, Dalat, Navos, Megvois, Menim, and Shalom, and Daniel Simon. Kol Shemos, Oimrim, B'Tayra, Ba'Avraham, all the names that are said in the Torah, Ba'Avraham, Kadesh. So they're all considered to be of sanctity. Let's look over here. Is there Rashi? There's no is there Rashi here? Benavois, Bamicha, Aleph, Shemos Amar Begiva. Okay. Chutz Mizeh, Shuchol. So sometimes the names have sanctity, and if you can't erase them, sometimes they're choil. So in this situation, he says, if you find it favor in your eyes. Now here, he's talking to the three guests, to the three angels, so therefore it's considered to be choil. Chanina Barachi, when it says, fine. Chanina ben Achi, Rabbi Yeshua, Rabbi Lezer ben Azar, Mishum, Rabbi Lezer, Hamoidah, Amir Avze Kodesh. This is also Kodesh. Come on, also Hadi Amir Rabbi Yehuda, Amir Rav, Gadah, Haknasas Arachim, Yosem Kabos Pnei Shechina. This is actually Hashem. Come on, Ka'isa Hazug, just like this pair, because it's actually Hashem that's involved over here. Kol Shemus and Rambuloit Chol, they're all Chayil Chutz Mizeh, Shu Kodesh. Shenemar, the Yomar Lot Elo Alehem, Al Na Adoini, Hini no matzasi avadecha chen beinecha. The Gomer. So Adoini in that case actually is Kodesh. Mish yesh biyadul hamas lahachiyos. That Kodesh Baruch Hu. Actually, it's referring to Hashem. So maybe I shouldn't be saying it that way, but that's what it's referring to. Someone who has the ability to bring life or to take away life. Kol shemus amurim benavois Kodesh. All the words that are found by Navois, when it says in Sefer Melachim, Baruch Navois Elokim, that's Kadosh. But Micha, Chayil. However, when it comes to Micha, for example, when it says Lo Beis Elohim, so that is actually Chayil, because it's referring to idols. Rabbi Lezer Omer ben Navos Kodesh, B'Micha Yesh Micha Yesh Kodesh. Sometimes yes, sometimes no. Aleph Lamed Chayil. If you find Aleph Lamed, which is Elohim Acherim, so that's idols. Yud Hey is Kodesh. Chutz Mizeh She'Aleph Lamed Hu Kodesh. Sometimes you could say Elokim, but then it's Kodesh. Kol Yimei Hiyos Beis Elokim B'Shiloi. So therefore, in that case, it's referring to Hashem. Kol Shemus Amurim B'Givois Binyamin. Anytime it says Hashem's name by the by the story of Binyamin, in the Pilagish Begiva, Rabbi Lezer Omer Choyel. Some say it's referring to idol worship. Rabbi Yeshua Omer Kodesh. Rabbi Lezer V'chim Avtiach Ve'en Oisa. If it's Hashem, how did he say that we would win? Right. So you would ask. So that's the question. So Rabbi Yeshua Mashi Avtiach Asa. The Heimu Bichnu im lanatzuach im lanetzach. So they only asked if we should go, but not if we will win. B'achreina shevechinhu hasmichu al Yadan. Shenemar Pinchas ben Elazar ben Aaron HaKoyin Oim Lefanim B'Yomim Mahim Leimor. He stood up to say, Ha'isif Oid Lotzei so we're going to war. Im ben Yamin Achi Im Echdal. Here will we be successful? So he learned to actually ask, not should we go to war, but rather he asked whether we'll be matzliach. Says Rashi, the chim avtiach sheatzilchenu v'enu oisa heim loy shalu ela ha'elech. Should we go? Says Rashi. V'omer his nahu b'yadi. Right? Will we be successful? However, when it came later on, Pinchas knew the question was asked properly to know whether you'd be victorious. Kol shleima ha'im hamura. Anytime when it's said by Shlomo Melech, b'shin he shin kodesh, which is b'shir hashirim. Everything that's written in shir hashirim is kodesh. Shir l'misha hushlim shaloi shashom shaloi. It's a song in which shashom shaloi. Chutz mizet, except this pasuk in shir hashirim, karmi shali, my vineyard is mine, lefonai, in front of me. Ha'elaflacha shloima shloima ladido masayim l'naitrim esperio. So who is that? The ones who are watching my fruit, which is the Rabbanon. So there's a Rashi on here? No. That's actually also Chayil. So it says regarding the bed of Shlomo, there's people watching and protecting. So mitasa is Chayil. Shehi nivas, says Rashi, nivas mi'ashmadoi. This is referring to some type of a shade. Avzeh v'lo miboy heich el hadyar mishmul malchusa de katla chad mishisa ba'alma. When he says that it was killed out 1/6 of the world, ansha, and not receiving punishment. Shenemer karmi shali lafanai ha'elafacha shloimai malchusa 1,000 durakia umasayim l'naitrim 200 guards espirial malchusa de ard Israel. Okay. V'lo ketanakam v'lo keyeshayimim el hachimer the yeshayimim ze kodesh zehu chayil. Some say it's so. The yeshayimim say that it's kodesh and chayil zehu chayil. The mitaso the shloimai the oimer keyeshayimim. Okay, and then koyel malchia hamura b'Daniel. Whenever it talks about the melech in Daniel, choyel, it's referring to Nebuchadnezzar. Chutz mizeshu kodesh anta malka melech malcha dial shamayim malchusa, which is referring to Hashem who has grace on you. Chasna v'takva v'ikari yoyvlecha. They gave to you that which is precious. The Yeshamrim avzeh kodesh. The Yeshamrim, some say that's also kodesh. When it says, avzeh kodesh nemer mori chalma l'sanecha, to give a dream to the enemies, upshara l'arech, and some type of compromise to the haters. Uman kaimer, who's he speaking to? And so he's speaking to him. Sendase my nihu Yisrael. So he's who the enemy is Yisrael. Miod kolain hu Yisrael. So that means he's referring to like Yisrael as the enemies of Hashem. So it is referring to Nebuchadnezzar. His enemies were many, and here not the Jewish people. Okay, it's a little difficult to understand all that. Let's look at question 6. Okay, that's a nice softball question. That Avram asked from Hashem to wait so he can bring the guests. Adifa is even greater. Okay, it's a simple answer. It's in Rashi and Chumash also. Question TA29. Tafel Hashem the yesh lo kedusha inyan iser mechika. So when it comes to lafan of nimchak, Mecharev, it's a machlokas. Yeshem shekvar kachu Hashem. That's the reason why. So I was right. Okay, so that's th29. So when it comes to the prefixes, so everyone says that can be erased. Okay, kol hatafel Hashem ben mofana ben macharev harzeh nimchak. That is one opinion, and then you have the shita again of the acherim oyrim. That's lacharav eno nimchak. Okay, that was th29. TB 30. Ma raya going against asarchim yosim kavos v'yeshchina v'eza plukta tuya raya zu. So a little bit more. They threw a little bit more into that question. So let's see what I wrote over here. TB 30. Ha'avram avinu acher bris milah v'Hashem avakar oyisoivel kisha shleisha anoshim boyim Avraham mohaylech likrosam laviam b'bayishaloi. Sounds beautiful, but I don't think that's the correct answer. Namash Yemer Avraham Hashem im no masasichen beinecha al not tabor natoli im shem ze kadosh olo im no masasichen beinecha al not. So when he said Yom Namash Yemer Avraham Hashem im masasichen beinecha, right? So when it says that, let's get that. This is TB 30. So, come on. So when it says, Yomer Hashem, right? So, what does Hashem mean here? Is it Choil or Kadosh? Okay. So that's the whole point to that. Okay. All right, let's keep on going. All right. We'll keep these 2 questions for next test. And let's keep on moving here. All right. So when it comes to every kinui, you're chayiv. So that is, again, you can't erase even a kinoi. However, we have now the Mishnah brought down a machlokas, Rameir and the Tanakama, when it comes to mimikal of imo, mavarchas Hashem, if that's the same din. But the question also is brought down that kinuim are going to be chayav shvuos eidos. Okay. B'chol kinuim hari elu chayav nuchul. So minhu. Yitin Hashem oischa l'ol b'shvua. Matamon amar kavar nemar v'shbi hakayin as isha. When it comes to the sota, b'shvuos olo lafish nemar v'shama koy olo nemar kan olo nemar holon olo. Mal holon shvua av kan shvua. So we know it has to be a shvua. So mal holon b'shem av kan b'shem. So it has to be apparently Hashem's name and not a kinoi. Rabbi Lukasha, Rabbi Chananya ben Bar Idi Horabanan. So it's actually machlokas by a kinu desanya. Rabbi Chanina bar Idi Omer Hoyel the Amra Taira Hishma v'el Tishma Kilel v'lo Tikalel Ma Hashpia b'Shem avlo Tishma b'Shem. So it has to be only with Hashem's name. Ma Kilel b'Shem avlo Tikal b'Shem. Rabbana, so therefore, you're right, there's an opinion that Taka holds not by Kinoi. Rabbanan, Igamir Gzer Shava Niboy Shem Ham Yuchid. Maybe you need a Shem Ham Yuchid, which our Mishnah said that definitely don't need. I Loy Gamir Gzer Shava, if you don't have Gzer Shava, all the Shvuahi Minolahu, not Nafkahu Midasanya. Allah, ain't Allah, Ella Lashon Shvuah. Allah is a language of a shvuah. V'cheinu oimer tishbiya hakayin as isha, that he has her swear b'shvuas Allah. Hasim shvuas Allah ksiv hachikamer. Allah ein Allah el b'shvuah. V'cheinu oimer tishbiya hakayin as isha b'shvuas Allah. As we continue to lam and vav of the aleph. Umanayin lasois. Let's see the parentheses. Ela sheni ma shvuah ke'ela sheshi ma shvuah. B'shvuah sheni ma ela k'shvuah sheshi ma Allah. Talmud Leimer, Meshama Koil Oil, Meshama Allah, Meshama's Koil. So what does that mean? We're going to stop there. What is Rashi? So Kach Shinuya B'Toras Kohanim Estefta Soita, Hechi Dami Shua Sheshima Allah. What's a Shua with a curse? Shua Shaloi Nitmis. The Nitmis Yavobach. Okay, so that's all it's coming to tell us. Adkan.